Hi everybody, Mark here with Couch Camino 2026, and hey, I'm putting out a video a little early this week. The guys are here working on the house, and I have a little free time while they're busy, so I figured I'd get this one in. This might be little bit of a long one, but I'll try to keep it as clear as I can. I actually wrote some stuff down this time, so let's see where it goes. We are at day 125. 125. We're heading into Thanksgiving week, which will be a load of fun. Schedule may be a little weird. We've got a family coming in from all over the place, so I'll try to get a video out later in the week, but no promises. It may be the weekend. We'll see. So this week we're going to talk about how do I get to the Camino? You keep talking about the Camino. How do I get there? We're going to talk about that. Now, we're mainly going to concentrate on the Camino de Francais, or the Camino de Santiago from Saint-Jean, or further west. But, let me just say, if you have other Camino plans, look around online. There's lots of help there. But I'm going to do what I can to kind of give you my little hints on what has worked for me in the past. So we'll go from there. As always, if you have comments or questions, please leave them down below. And if you would rather have a private conversation, feel free to email me at askmeacaminoquestion@gmail.com. I apologize if you can hear equipment beeping. There's a telehandler less than 20 feet from me, right there. They're moving around a bunch of materials and such, so it's getting a little noisy. Anyway, let's start with the TLDL. And this is going to get a little bit long, but I really will try to keep this succinct. So the TLDL. How you get to the Camino is largely going to be, where are you starting on your Camino? Are you starting in Saint-Jean, or are you starting further west? And again, this is going to be for the Camino de Santiago, not the Villa de la Plata or the El Porto or Portuguese, any of that. So if you're starting in Saint-Jean, your choices are vaguely anywhere in Europe, but usually it's going to be flying into Paris, Madrid, maybe Barcelona. From there, you're going to need to fly from Paris, Madrid, Barcelona to, if you're flying, if you want to start on the French side, to Biarritz, Bayonne. It's kind of twin cities there. The airport is Bayonne, but the train station is in Biarritz, or the other way around. Like I said, they're right next to each other. It really doesn't matter that much. If you're going to do the Spanish thing, it's easiest to take the train or fly from Madrid or Barcelona to Pamplona, and then make your way from Pamplona. If you're starting anywhere further west, say Pamplona west, it's really best to fly into Madrid. And then from Madrid, you can take a train to almost every single one of the major starting cities, including, not a major city, but Sarria. There is a train that goes from Madrid, the San Martin train station, directly to Sarria. We'll cover that in a little bit here. Once you get to Pamplona or Biarritz, Bayonne, they're a little bit different. Biarritz, Bayonne, you can get a train that goes from Biarritz, Bayonne, Biarritz, Bayonne, one of the two. You can get a train. I always get them mixed up. You can get a train that will take you to Saint-Jean directly from there. It's inexpensive. You can look on Trainline, the app we're going to talk about in a little bit. You can book it through there. It's pretty easy. If you're going from Pamplona, there is a bus that goes from Pamplona at the train or the bus station over by the Star Fort in the middle of Pamplona. You can't pre-buy those tickets for the bus. There isn't a train that goes. It's a bus. You can't buy them online. You have to buy them there at the station. And really, it's not that big a deal. You walk in. There's a nice station there. You can get them. It's about $6-7 to take the hour and 40-minute bus to Saint-Jean. It's a solid option. So, with those broad strokes, let's talk about getting to Europe in the first place. And this is going to be for our American friends out there. It's the same for if you're flying outside. If you're a European, you know how to use your own train and plane systems. You probably don't need my help for this part. But let me talk to those. Let me talk to those U.S. folks who've maybe never traveled internationally a little bit. So, when you're flying from the U.S., choose flights with as few connections as possible. I don't care if that flight that has multiple connections, 3 or 4 connections, is $500 cheaper. You're introducing points of failure all through your first very part of the trip. You really don't want to do that. From there, when you get those, when you're looking at those times, if you find a really good flight, say, let me use me an example. I'm flying from Kansas City. Usually Kansas City, to get to Madrid or Paris, I have 1 connection. Atlanta, Dallas, Minneapolis, Chicago, Boston, sometimes Philadelphia. 1 connection is what we want to, what I like to keep to. How long of a connection? I won't book a ticket, no matter how cheap it is, with anything less than a 4-hour layover. And we'll talk in the ramble something that just happened, which is a really good reason why. Here's the thing. Flight schedules change all the time. Weather can impact the flight schedules. There's so many things that can impact whether that flight is going to leave either your starting city or your second city, your connection city. Leaving that 4-hour block in there gives you plenty of time, plenty of insulation to deal with the vagaries of the flight schedules. You really, as I've said in an earlier video, it is better to spend 4 hours bored in an airport than it is to spend 20 minutes sprinting with your backpack across a major airport like Atlanta, the busiest airport in the world, trying to get from Atlanta to Atlanta, trying to get from your domestic terminal to the international terminal in 20 minutes while they're waiting to close the doors on the plane. You don't want to do that. Give yourself enough flex time and just enjoy the downtime. Get some Starbucks, find something else. Don't rush if you don't have to. So don't forget, when you book your tickets, you lose a day going, you burn a day. So if you leave on Monday from the US, you arrive in Spain or France on a Tuesday. Don't mess up your bookings for your lodging and the start of your Camino, forgetting that you're gonna burn that day. Now, as you come back on the same day. Not a big deal. And really, by the time you're coming back, it doesn't matter that much, really. You're gonna be fine. So, once you get to where you're going, let's say I've flown out of Kansas City, I went to Atlanta. Atlanta, I went to Paris. So I need to get from Paris down, so I'm going to have a flight or a train. If I'm going to take the train, I want to give myself 3 to 4 hours on the ground after I land to get to the train station, because Paris, apart from Terminal T4 for the high-speed trains, there aren't a whole lot of trains that go anywhere from the Paris airport. You're going to have to go into Paris proper, into downtown Paris, to pick up a train at Gare du Nord or something. That can take multiple hours. Also, Madrid. There is an easy commuter train that goes from the Madrid airport to San Martin. It takes about, 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. It's easy to get. It goes right from the basement of the airport right to San Martin, and you can pick up your train there. But if you're leaving out of Atocha or any of the other train stations that are in Madrid proper, it may be a 40-minute taxi ride or more to get to your train station. So give yourself plenty of time for that. Here's the other thing. When you land in Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, you have to go through passport control. Now, they're not going to be searching your bags and going through all that. It's not like when you fly out. But coming in, you still have to go through passport control. Paris and Madrid, it has taken me as little as 10 minutes to get through passport control. It's taken me in both airports as long as 2 hours to get through passport control. You don't want to book train tickets that are an hour after you land, not knowing if you're going to get through passport control in time to be able to get that train. Give yourself plenty of time. Look, we're about to walk across an entire country, mostly. Really is a little extra time dealing with these flexible bits of the transportation section. Is it really that big a deal to do? So give yourself time. This is also where I would say, give yourself an extra day at the beginning of your Camino in Saint-Jean, Pamplona, Sarria, wherever you're going to begin. Give yourself an extra day. Here's why. Let's say even you took my advice and you had multiple flex hours, everything was great, but your flight from Atlanta got canceled and you can't fly till the next day. Okay, that's a giant pain in the butt. Luckily, our train tickets and such, not terribly expensive, so if we can't get a refund on them, no big deal. But if we haven't given ourselves an extra day at the start in Saint-Jean, Pamplona, wherever we're starting, suddenly the albergue that we had booked, anything we've booked after is off by a day. Suddenly we've got to frantically get a hold of everybody, try to rearrange our beds. And if you're staying in Orison, good luck getting to bed the next day, particularly in the busy season. You ain't going to get a bed. They book up 6 months ahead of time. So giving yourself that insulation. So, okay, my flight got canceled. I'm flying out the next morning. It's still going to be a giant pain in the ass when I get there, but I haven't lost the extra lodging as I go. I haven't really burned that much. It's a nice little bit of insulation, insurance. Plus, if everything works right, you get an extra day to hang out. It's a little, yeah, you're paying for lodging for an extra day, but the albergues don't care if you're there for an extra day anymore, so why not enjoy yourself? You got a little extra time. Relax. You've been traveling. You've been worried about all this stuff. You've been worried about what the bald guy on YouTube's been bitching about for, 19 weeks now. Relax and have a glass of wine, have a beer, have a coffee, whatever. Enjoy yourself a little bit. I also, on the back end, I always give myself an extra day as I'm flying out. Say, when I leave Santiago, I take the high-speed train from Santiago to the San Martin train station. Usually by the time I can get in at a comfortable time, the flights to the US have left. So I'll get a room. There's an airport called The One at the San Martin train station. I'll just get into that hotel and hang out for the night, and then I can take the easy train from right there in the station where the hotel is, right to the airport, get on my plane and go. That little bit of insurance on the very last day takes all the stress out. And in the ramble, I'm going to talk to you about why I add that insurance, because, yep, it's happened to me. Let's talk a little bit about how do we actually find all of these flights and all of the details we just talked about. Primarily, I use Kayak. I don't buy anything through Kayak. I don't use the links through Kayak to go to sites to purchase. But Kayak is linked in with all of the major airlines. It's great for just getting kind of the general vibe of, well, if I'm flying out of Denver, what time are my flights going to be leaving? What time can I expect to arrive in Paris or Madrid, whichever we're doing? Let me get a look for, let me sort by layover. I want this layover, it's a good, flexible, easy tool to allow you to search for those flights. In addition, if you go ahead and make an account, keep logged on, it'll allow you to do a price watch. So if you have a certain, okay, I want these flights, I want to go from Denver to Madrid in the month of May, and I want it in this price range on these airlines, you can set that and it'll email you or text you when airlines post flights that may work for you. It's really great. So consider using that. From there, for trains, the Trainline app, which if you go back and watch the video on my favorite planning apps. Trainline is brilliant. You can search and you can purchase train and bus tickets in certain areas right on the app. It has your ticket, your QR code to show to the conductor right on the app. It's really great. It allows you to do just about anything you'd need for the train systems, and really, really user-friendly, and the guys that run it are really great. For local trains or buses within Spain, the primary company that runs them is ALSA, A-L-S-A. They do have an app. It works well when it works. Biggest problem I've had is when I tried to get a profile and membership for the app, or an account on the app, it would not accept my phone number on the app. I just went to the website, entered it all in, it was fine, and then now through the app I can get tickets if I need to. It's a good way to get tickets if you're going to be doing anything other than on the direct Camino route where the train service. So, feel free to look into that and dig around a little bit. If you have a down day in León or other places, sometimes you could just jump on a train or a bus and take a bus to a neighboring historic city or something. It's kind of cool. Take a look. One of the best travel resources on the internet is a website called Rome to Rio. If you have any questions about, hey, I want to go from Ponferrada I have a down day in Ponferrada, I want to go from there to this random ass little town in the middle of nowhere, ask Rome to Rio. They're going to give you lots of options, and they break it down by like trains, private taxis, private shuttles, that sort of thing. Speaking of which, I skipped something because I'm terrible at this. Don't forget, you have the option from Biarritz, and Pamplona to take a private shuttle. Express Burgos is the company I use, and I'll put it here on the screen. Cost about €100, but usually they have other people, particularly in the busy season. They have other people. Their vans hold up to 8 people, I believe. And if there's multiple people, they just split the cost amongst all of you. So it can be like €20 or under. So Express Burgos, you don't have to mess with the buses. You don't have to mess with the trains. It's a good way to go. Sorry, I forgot to mention that before. Hopefully you're still here. So on kayak and such, do not take the prices and schedules as gospel until you book the ticket, until you go to the airline's website, or if you're booking through a credit card that has a point system that you're going to be using. Don't take those prices or that schedule as absolutely gospel until you book it. Don't just find it on Kayak and go, oh, I'm fine. I'll do, that's great. And then 3 months later, you find out, no, they changed the schedules. Everything's different. Go to the airline's website or go to your credit card portal that you'll be using your points through and double check, book through there. The very last thing I'm going to say about traveling to and from the Camino is, as you're leaving your house, your apartment, your farm, your hovel in the mountains, wherever you're leaving from, you have your backpack, you got your hiking poles, you got your silly Camino clothes on. Before you leave, I want you to reach into your pocket, pull out your passport, look at it, make sure it's still valid, make sure everything's correct before you leave. Then put it back in your pocket. Before you go anywhere, before you close and lock your door, double check your passport, make sure it's on your person. Keep hitting my mic. I say that because there are horror stories all the time of people forgetting their passports. I have friends who have kids that, when they've made it to the airport, did not have their passports. And like me, I live better part of 2.5 hours from the airport. So yeah, not a fun trip. So double check. And also, if you have a spouse and you both have passports and you get into your firebox or wherever and you pull out the passport, don't just assume it's yours. Double check, because I swear I have pulled out passports, looked at them, and I've accidentally grabbed my wife's, and then like 30 seconds later gone, hang on, No, okay. Now we have the same four. By the way, I'm going to cover this up, but my passport is literally me wearing, and I got this, oh my gosh, 2018. I'm wearing the exact same outfit. I'm wearing the same t-shirt and the same orange pullover. Kind of sad. Anyway, I got to get some different clothes. So that's it for the TLDL. We're going to talk more in depth in the ramble, and I'm going to give you examples of why these things are important and the things I have personally run into and how we had to deal with them. So if this is the point where you usually take off, please have a great Thanksgiving holiday. If you're not from the U.S., have a Thanksgiving. Just sit down with your family and tell them how much you love them and how much you appreciate what they do for you, your friends, your family. Pick a random stranger at the gas station and tell them thanks for being who they are. So we'll see you next week. So on to the ramble. I'm going to cough real quick. What's my favorite thing this week? Hang on. Oh, I get all choked up talking about passports. So my favorite thing this week, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I'm a beekeeper. Been doing it since we bought the farm. I love it. I love my little stinky girls. So one of the great joys of being a beekeeper is traveling other places and getting different honeys. And this is some of my favorite. So see how dark that is? It's amazing. As you get, and look, I barely have any left. I got to bring some back when I'm there in the spring. So when you pass into Galicia, and I'm just going to whitewash this, just from Astorga on, kind of the big chestnut forest begin. European chestnuts, they make some of the most amazing honey in the world. It's super dark. I've seen some that looks like it's darker than this. It looks like molasses. As you hit those big forests in Galicia, if you have room in your pack, pick some up to take home. If not, pick up a little jar just to have along the way. If you like hot tea, the chestnut honey and tea is, whether it's green tea or black tea, it's really great. So consider picking some up. It's completely different than the honey profiles you'll find here in the United States. It's really awesome. So anyway, yeah, the guys have been working on the house. We've got the roof structures on. They're going to be coming. We're supposed to get a bunch of rain Monday, but Tuesday they're going to be putting the underlayments on, and we should be weathered in, and they may start putting in doors and windows. So pretty soon we may be weathered in to the point I might shoot a video from over there. It's going to be a big echoey mess, but we'll see. Okay, so let's talk about all these flexible bits. Really, unless you're going to spend a little time in Paris before you head down to the Camino anymore, I think it's just as easier to fly into Madrid. And the reason I didn't mention flying into Paris and flying out of Madrid is multi-city flights. They don't penalize you for that anymore. It's just part of travel in the modern age. So you can fly into Paris and then fly down to Biarritz and then take the train from Bayonne or the shuttle from Bayonne. I think it's just easier to fly into Madrid and then take the train to Pamplona. It's fairly short. There's a direct route. You don't have to change trains. Fairly inexpensive. And it just makes it a little easier. So, if you're not going to hang out in Paris, fly into Madrid, take the train to Pamplona, and then take the Alsa bus from the Pamplona over to St. Jean, or use Express Burke or something like that. Now, the one downside of that is if from the train station to the bus station, they are not even remotely in the same place. They're hell and gone from each other. So just plan on taking a 10-minute taxi over. You can walk. It's, 4 or 5 kilometers, which in the grand scheme of walking across the country is not that big a deal. But it's not the nicest walk, so I don't know if I would say, that would be my real recommendation. So just grab a taxi and go over get to the bus station, get that cheap little ticket, and go over. I usually use the private shuttle just because I don't want to deal with buses after I've flown for that long. Traveling from the US using as few connections as possible. And that's important. If you've watched my video on my very first Camino, we had a stop from Kansas City, we had a stop in Chicago, we had a stop in Charlotte before we went to Paris. We had troubles on both flights. It had delays. Would have been much, and we had very, 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 very tight windows to begin with. And then we had all these problems and ended up running across a couple of airports. It was a giant, not fun experience. My wife and I have had a couple of instances when we've been traveling internationally where that has happened as well. And we've had to go across airports. We literally, when we flew to Vietnam, we had a layover in Chengdu, China. And originally it was supposed to be for 2 hours. We got backed up by weather. And by the time we hit the ground in China, we had less than 20 minutes to get across a major Chinese airport, which I can't read any of that. And as we got off the plane, there was a guy with a sign with our names on it. And there were 4 of us. He literally grabbed our bags and just took off running with them. And we were trying to keep up with him to get to the plane. And we were some of the last people to get on the plane. So don't let that happen to you. It's not fun. Delays happen all the time. The reason I was tickled when I got up this morning, I was going to make this video, is I got an email last night from my airline saying my schedule had changed. Now, it actually changed for the better for me. I'm flying out of Kansas City an hour earlier than I was, so I have an extra hour worth of layover in Dallas. I'm hanging out for 5 hours instead of 4 hours, which I don't really care about. But imagine if I would have had a 2-hour layover in Dallas and suddenly I have a 1-hour layover in Dallas. That's cutting it too close. And Dallas can be weird about where you're, even within the same airline, where your international flight's going to go. So give yourself 4 hours. It's just a good rule of thumb. And again, when you get to your destination in Paris or Madrid or Barcelona, give yourself extra time to get from the airport to the train stations. They're not the same place. They're not in the same area. It's going to involve a train or a taxi, something to get there. Give yourself plenty of time. As I mentioned in the TLDL, I've been through customs, or I've been through passport control in Madrid and Paris in 10 minutes, and it's taken well over 2 hours. It just depends on how many planes are landing and what day of the week it is. And no, I can't tell you which is better, because I've been through on a Saturday in 20 minutes, and I've gotten caught for an hour on a Tuesday. So I don't know what to tell you. Just give yourself plenty of time, and give yourself plenty of time in Sanjin or Pamplona or wherever. A day of downtime wasted in one of these cities is never going to be bad. They're beautiful cities. There's lots of fun stuff to do. You can try out the horrible French or Spanish you've been learning on Duolingo in the mornings for the past, 6 months or so. Take advantage of it. Try it out. Have a little fun. Looking down my list here again. Get travel insurance. I didn't say this in the TLDL because I'm just assuming people kind of do it anymore. But when you book your airline tickets, just take that cancellation insurance or delay insurance or any of that. It's worth it. It costs a little extra. I don't want to sound like an entitled jerk here, but if the $50 to $75 that getting that extra insurance for your Camino flight is a make or break for your budget, you honestly don't have the budget to do a Camino. It's financially irresponsible of you to be even thinking about it. So unless you're just doing a budgeting game, and I get it. I do that sometimes too. Just do the insurance. It's worth it. The kayak thing with the prices and schedules. They're usually pretty good for 24 to 48 hours, but just don't assume that flight you saw is going to be there for a really long time. It does make a huge difference sometimes. And if you find a flight you want and you've got the points, or you want to go ahead and get it nailed down, go ahead and get it nailed down. Don't wait. I booked my flight almost a year ahead of time. It's the longest I've ever booked a flight. If you're looking at now for next year, easily you can get your flights. Go ahead and get them nailed down. Get that insurance and get that taken care of. I'm kind of going back through my notes here because I made some notes about some of the issues we've had. Oh, give yourself an extra day in Madrid, because going from Santiago to Madrid, the trains, they do run in the mornings, but then trying to get to the airport and make a noon or a 1 o'clock flight can be a little sketchy. There's not a lot of flex time there. And so in 2020, when I got chased out of Spain by COVID, the train I was on, I had a 3 o'clock afternoon flight flying out of Madrid on Iberia. Great airline. Love them. I took the train. It was before the high-speed rail was in. It was the old creaky train line. It was the old creaky train. Got to the station, got on the train, was great, having a great time, and the train derailed. Now, it was a minor derailment. We didn't even know it had derailed until they came down and they said, look, the train we have to have a piece of equipment come help us get back on the track. I don't know how that works. So we sat there on the un-air-conditioned train, or unheated train, because it was January, or February. We sat there for about 3 hours. As I'm watching the time for my plane ride get closer and closer, then they pulled the train. When they finally got it on, because it had damaged the train, they pulled it into, we went for about 20 minutes at a dead walk speed, pulled it into a little maintenance area, and we waited for another 2 hours. And it was during that time my flight left. So, okay. We boarded another train, got us to the airport, got us to San Martin. I took the little shuttle train to the airport to see what I could do. Iberia was very apologetic, but said, we weren't at fault for your train derailing. This is nothing we're going to help you with other than we'll schedule you for tomorrow. Okay, great. So I ended up having to go back to San Martin, get a room at the hotel, stay the night, and then do the whole thing again the next day. So, giant pain in the butt. There are things that can happen even on the way out. Give yourself a little of insurance time. Because honestly, by the time you get to Santiago, and especially if you walk out to Fistera or Murcia, by the time you're ready to go home, you're kind of ready to go home, and you've been in Camino mode for 30 to 60 days, whatever it is. You just kind of want to turn off your brain for a while, and fighting a bunch of flexibility and fighting a bunch of issues at the end. Give yourself the insulation of or the insurance. I keep saying insulation. Give yourself the insurance of a decent day hanging out. Now, there's not a lot to do around the San Martin train station. Luckily, the hotel has a decent little bar, and they have a great restaurant. Their breakfast is really, really good. So if you have a flight that's a little later in the morning, definitely hit that breakfast, because wow, good stuff. Yeah, and last, seriously, look at your passport. Look at your passport before you go. Like my wife and I have expired passports because, like our the short-term stay visas for Vietnam were these giant fold-out visa papers. They're really ornate. They're gorgeous. Totally worth saving. So. And they drill, when you get a new passport, you send in your old passport, they then reissue a new one, and they drill a hole through the old one. But sometimes, you don't really notice. So either keep those in a separate place or something, but just make sure your passport is yours and it's the valid one, and before you put it in your pocket to leave. So, avoid that. So that's about it. Like I said, I tried to keep this fairly cohesive. I'm not going to recommend any airlines or any of that, because we all have our favorites. For years, I only flew Delta, and I would not fly into Madrid because we had such a terrible time with American Airlines for a trip we did to Belize that I avoided them like the plague. But I have, since I've started flying back and forth from Madrid, so much, American has been just spectacular. So kudos to them. They got their customers back for whatever they care. So that's about it. Let's talk about my favorite place. So it's on the Camino, but it's not on the Camino you're thinking. It's actually not even in the north of Spain. That's right. We're going south. If by any chance, as part of your Camino experience, you're going to be goofing off down in the south of Spain near Malaga or in Malaga, there is something called the Camino del Rey, the King's Little Road. It was a road that was built primarily for guys who were building a hydroelectric station to get back and forth through this river gorge. It was built back in the turn of the century. Not this one, but the one before. And it was just rickety timbers and all sorts of scary stuff stapled onto the side of a river gorge. It looks like this. Yeah. They walked that work. It's 7 kilometers. They walked that to work every day. Now there is a new version, and you can see in this picture, you can see that there's a modern walkway that's been built above the old, very dangerous one. And now it's a tourist attraction. We booked a trip from a local tour company out of Malaga. It's about an hour-and-a-half bus ride, maybe a little more, from Malaga to where it begins. Now, if you have a car, you can drive there, but we opted for the bus. It's a nice all-day trip. The walk through the gorge is great. If you book through a company like we did, and I don't remember what the company is, but there's several of them, and they're licensed to do it. I mean, they have to be licensed to get into the darn thing. So they're all safe. They're all fine. When you get there, you're given a rock climbing helmet or a bump helmet and a nice little not a translator, but a little microphone or a transmitter, receiver, earphone thing. We had a really knowledgeable English-speaking guide. Was fantastic. Lots of chances for pictures. About halfway through, there's a chance to have lunch. So pack a lunch with you and take some extra water. There is no water. There is no bathroom. There is nothing once you get out there. There are bathrooms and such before you leave. And at the end, like all great Caminos, there's a place to get a beer and go to the bathroom and get a little snack of some sort. So if you're not afraid of heights, if you want a little adventure, if you can work a little bit of the south of Spain into your Camino experience, go do the Camino del Rey. It was really fun. I actually enjoyed it more than some of the sections of the regular Camino that I've done so many times. It was really breathtakingly beautiful. My wife had a good time. My friends had a great time. Yeah, totally worth it. I had somebody in an email asking me why almost everything I talk about is essentially from León back east on the Camino, and I rarely talk about anything further west than, well, I guess I talked about the Chocolate Museum in Astorga. It's because once you get past Astorga, there's lots of really cool stuff, but you're basically walking through small Galician mountain villages, with the exception of Ponferrada and Sarria. They're little tiny villages there's not a lot to do. I mean, there's some fun history, and there's a Celtic hill fort you'll walk through walk next to at one point. There's some cool stuff, but it's not really as interesting as the stuff earlier on, and I don't know why. Maybe I'll try to do some digging around. I will give you something to do in Ponferrada next week. There's a Templar castle there. I can't remember who the Templars were kind of dealing with at the time there, but anyway. So that's it for this week. Next week, I'm going to do sort of a bits and pieces again, like I did my third or fourth video, whenever it was. We'll talk about hiking poles and a few other things just to kind of get that nailed down before shopping season stuff really hits or keeps hitting. If you have anything you want me to cover here, as we go into December, I think I'm going to start doing day in the life stuff. And by what that I mean, it's like, we're going to do a little pretend time. Okay, what's our day look like? What do we do hour by hour? How do we handle stuff? What's our albergue experience going to be on the ground? I keep talking about bars. Why does this guy keep talking about bars? It's like all he does is go bar to bar to bar in Spain. There's a reason. Bars are important. So we'll cover all that stuff in December, and then I'll probably take a week off or two during the holidays, during Christmas to New Year's, but we'll see. So anyway, that's about it for this week. Again, we're at 40 minutes. I'm trying to keep these darn things to under 45 minutes, and I've succeeded. If you have questions, ask down below. There's a lot of moving parts to moving your parts to Spain. So if you have any questions, let me know. And please, please, please email me at askmeacaminoquestion@gmail.com if I can help you, and we'll get through this. So I will see you next week.